India in the mid-19th century was like a simmering pot of curry. Rich, complex, and just waiting for someone to stir it the wrong way. The East India Company, that peculiar hybrid of merchant and monarch, had gone from selling spices to ruling kingdoms. By 1857, they controlled 2/3 of India directly, and the rest indirectly, like a nosy neighbor who insists on telling you how to mow your lawn. The company began as humble traders in the late 1600s, hawking textiles and tea. But traders need forts, forts need soldiers, and soldiers need pay. Voila, the company had its own army and navy, separate from Britain's official forces. After Robert Clive's victory at Plassey in 1757, the company transformed from shopkeepers into imperial overlords. Think of it as Amazon suddenly deciding to run your government. By the 1850s, sepoys, Indian soldiers in the company's army, were restless. Pay problems. Their wages hadn't budged since the early 1800s. Inflation was eating their chapatis faster than they could cook them. Annexation of Oudh, 1856. Many sepoys hailed from this kingdom. Its annexation stripped them of privileges and prestige. One soldier complained that villagers who once respected him now blew smoke in his face, literally. Religious tensions. The Bengal army recruited heavily from high-caste Hindus, especially Brahmins. When the General Service Enlistment Act 1856 ordered them to serve overseas, panic ensued. Crossing the seas meant breaking caste rules about food preparation. For a devout Hindu, this was spiritual bankruptcy. Missionary meddling. Evangelical Christians, newly allowed into India, pushed reforms like banning sati. Noble in intent, but many Indians saw it as cultural bulldozing. The fear of forced conversion loomed large. Enter the infamous Cartridges of 1856. Rumors spread that they were greased with cow fat, sacrilege to Hindus, and pig fat, taboo to Muslims. Soldiers had to bite the cartridges open, meaning direct contact with religious pollution. Whether true or not, the symbolism was explosive. Sepoys saw it as yet another attempt to erase their traditions. And then, the strangest subplot. Chapatis began circulating across villages. No one knew why, but it was a traditional omen of upheaval. Imagine thousands of flatbreads traveling hand to hand, whispering of revolution without saying a word. It was like Twitter, but edible. The sepoys were restless. Pay was stagnant, privileges stripped, and religious fears inflamed by those cursed cartridges. Yet the British authorities, in their infinite arrogance, believed all was well. The sepoys can be trusted, they said. Just tell them the cartridges aren't greased with cow or pig fat, and they'll calm down. Enter General John Hearsey at Barrackpore. Aged 66, battle-hardened, respected, and fluent in the language of his men, he stood before the 34th Bengal Native Infantry on the 9th of February 1857. He assured them, "No cow fat, no pig fat, no problem." For the moment, the sepoys nodded. Crisis averted, or so it seemed. Meanwhile, at the 19th Bengal Native Infantry, Colonel Mitchell faced the same cartridge crisis. But unlike Hearsey's sympathetic approach, Mitchell went full bulldog. On the 27th of February, he barked threats. "Take the cartridges or I'll ship you off to Burma or China." The sepoys stared him down. Mitchell blinked first. He backed down, and in that instant, his authority evaporated like morning mist. Worse still, his threats convinced the men that the rumors were true. The seeds of rebellion were now watered with mistrust. The authorities decided to disband the defiant 19th. They marched 90 miles to Barrackpore, escorted by the British 87th Regiment of Foot, later the Royal Irish Fusiliers. The 19th was disbanded, but the spectacle left the 34th Bengal Native Infantry deeply uneasy. They feared the white troops would soon turn on them. Suspicion was now a wildfire. On the 29th of March 1857, the powder keg finally blew. Mangal Panday, a 29-year-old sepoy, stormed out of his barracks at Barrackpore, musket in hand, sword gleaming, shouting for his comrades to rise up against the British. The parade ground filled with men, uncertain, watching. Some thought Panday was drunk, and he may well have been, but his fury was undeniable. Sergeant Major James Hewson arrived. Panday fired and missed. Lieutenant Henry Baugh galloped in. Panday shot his horse, sending the officer tumbling. Sword drawn, Baugh charged. Panday slashed both men, and suddenly, comrades joined in, striking the officers with rifle butts. The crowd was no longer passive, it was participating. General Hearsey thundered onto the scene. He ordered Jemidar Ishwari Prasad, the Indian commander of the guard, to arrest Pandy. Prasad refused, claiming he was unarmed. Hirsi spurred forward, but Pandy, musket reloaded, raised it, not at Hirsi, but at himself. He fired into his chest. Miraculously, he survived, wounded but alive. Within a week, Panday and Prasad were court-martialed and hanged. But in death, Panday became immortal. His name became a rallying cry. Remember MANGAL Panday. The mutiny had found its martyr. Events now shifted 900 miles northwest to Meerut, a comfortable military base near Delhi. Here, sepoys of the 11th and 20th Bengal Native Infantry and the 3rd Light Cavalry stood side by side with British regulars of the 60th Rifles and 6th Dragoon Guards. Fast forward to 24th April 1857 at Meerut. Lt. Colonel George Carmichael Smythe, eager to prove his authority, ordered 90 sharpshooters of the 3rd Bengal Light Cavalry to firing drill. The dreaded cartridges were handed out. And then, disaster! 85 out of 90 men refused to touch them. Carmichael Smythe, red-faced and furious, ordered their immediate arrest. The stage was set for a showdown that would echo through history. On the 9th of May 1857, the garrison of 4,000 troops, Indian and British, assembled in a giant square. The 85 accused stood on the fourth side, weaponless. The British, armed with the very Enfield rifles that sparked the crisis, glared menacingly. Artillery pieces filled the gaps in their ranks, a silent promise of annihilation. The trial dragged on for 2 hours. Verdict: guilty. All sentenced to 10 years hard labor, except 11 of the youngest. Veterans with decades of loyal service wept openly, begging for mercy. Their tunics were ripped off, shackles clamped on, and they were marched to prison past their comrades. The sepoys watching cried too, tears of grief, rage, and helplessness. The injustice was unbearable. The powder keg was primed. That night, young British officer Hugh Gough received a chilling visit. An Indian officer lurking in the shadows whispered, "Something is afoot tomorrow." Alarmed, Gough ran to Carmichael Smythe, but the colonel, smug and dismissive, waved it off. "Nonsense," he scoffed. Oh, how wrong he was. Sunday, 10th of May 1857. The day began quietly. British soldiers lounged in the bazaar, sepoys sulked in their barracks. Then, at 5 p.m. a rumor ripped through the town. The British are coming to disarm and disband the regiments. Panic turned to fury. Sepoys rushed back to barracks. The armory was stormed, weapons seized. Crowds from the town joined in, chanting rebellion. The Indian Mutiny, the first war of independence, had begun. Chaos engulfed Meerut. Buildings burned. Europeans were hunted down. That night, 41 Europeans were killed, half of them civilians, including 8 children. The violence was savage. Mrs. Chambers, a 23-year-old pregnant officer's wife, was brutally murdered, her unborn child placed beside her lifeless body. It was a horror that shocked even hardened soldiers. The rebellion had announced itself with blood. The sepoys stormed the jail, freeing their 85 comrades. Shackles smashed, voices raised, they marched not against the British garrison, but towards Delhi, 40 miles away. Why? Because Delhi was symbolic. The old Mughal capital, the seat of Bahadur Shah II, the last emperor. By dawn, the rebels reached the Red Fort. They shouted for the emperor's blessing. At first, Bahadur Shah hesitated, but his court, long dreaming of revival, urged him on. Soon, Delhi was in rebel hands. British civilians and Indian Christians were slaughtered. The arsenal was blown sky high by 9 desperate officers rather than surrender it. Outside the city, rebels seized 3,000 barrels of gunpowder. Finally, Bahadur Shah gave his blessing. The rebellion had its figurehead. The Mughal dream flickered back to life. From Meerut to Delhi, the rebellion spread like wildfire across northern India. The Chapatis had foretold it. Momentous times were here. But what followed was not the rebirth of empire, nor freedom, but 10 months of savage war. The Mughal dream would be crushed. The East India Company would be destroyed. The British Raj would rise from the ashes. The Chapatis had indeed heralded the devil's wind, a storm of violence, vengeance, and history-shaping change. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share. Every follow helps grow this channel. See you in the next one.